So when the time comes, if the government ever says to me that I must get a vaccine in order to have my civil liberties or freedoms, it's gonna be a no from me. In this video, we're gonna talk about the potential coming up in our future for things like forced vaccinations and RFID chips. We need to have a conversation about the awareness of this subject, as well as what we can potentially do to protect our rights as men and women living in America. So if you're ready, let's jump into it. What is up, everybody? Welcome back to the blog. My name is OnenO, and today we're going to talk about a very strange subject that we could potentially be experiencing in our future. And so the purpose of this conversation is to try to remind you of your rights and to just have an open dialogue about an awareness of this subject so that we can be better prepared and know how to deal with something like forced vaccinations. Additionally, you should know that in this video, I'm not going to be using certain words like the disease that we're all dealing with right now. I'm not going to be calling that out by name because I'm attempting to keep this video as popular as possible on YouTube and not get hit with like a demonetization strike that then limits the reach of this video. So we all know what's happening right now. We're all aware of what the news is talking about and how the government is responding. But as I watch the media landscape, there's something that is coming about in conversation that I think is really dangerous. And this idea is essentially a fear-based idea that says we should not reopen our society until we have a vaccine that everybody can take so that we can all re-enter our society with peace of mind. I personally think that there's a lot of dangers in this thinking, because if we're going to go down this path of saying that everyone must get vaccinated, there's all of these conditions and terms that are going to be layered upon that are going to start to infringe on our civil liberties. Let's imagine a future really quick where vaccines become the only way that we feel confident to open up our society again. Well, how will we know if we all have the vaccine or not? Well, the way that's being proposed that we have a track record of who's being vaccinated and who's not is by having some sort of an RFID chip implanted in our body at the same time so that there's a digital record that can be scanned on our body at any point in time to know whether we have or have not been vaccinated. The conversation of an RFID chip is about 20 years old at this point. The first time I remember RFID chips hitting the mainstream, meaning like news coverage, was around 2001, just after the 9/11 attacks. There was a huge push in mainstream news about how RFID chips could help us travel safer and do everything easier, like banking or getting around our country. And almost immediately you had all kinds of people talking about how terrible of an idea this is. And I personally hold that opinion. I think it's an awful idea. You see, we have to think about this from the end goal. What is it that the controllers or the powers that be would really like to see happen with their society? Well, they would like to see your freedom even more limited. They would like to know where you are at all times. They would like you to be carrying no paper money or have no physical, tangible, valuable currency for you to be able to trade with one another. Essentially, they want us to adopt this digital currency system as a means of what is safe, because paper money is unhealthy. There could be a disease on that money. So we're being programmed right now with all of these fear-based thoughts. Something I read on Reddit this weekend was a headline quoting Dr. Fauci saying that he thinks that in the future we should never do things like shake hands again. And I think that is insane. I don't even think that people will really adopt this, but I do think that they're doing a wonderful job at scaring the shit out of us and making us feel like there's an invisible boogeyman lurking around the corner. What you really need to understand is that right now there is a war that is being developed in narrative, except this time around, instead of it being weapons of mass destruction or Osama bin Laden or something crazy like that, like ISIS or something, the enemy this time is being called the invisible enemy. And the way that this invisible enemy takes down people is through handshakes, hugs, personal contact. All of these things are being considered the weapons of this new invisible enemy. And you see, I think this whole line of thinking is completely dangerous. Now, the purpose of this video is to talk about forced vaccinations, but we also need to just briefly touch on the idea that all of the research that I've been doing online, it has been leading me to understand that there is actually no way for our medical system to know who has or who does not have. Oops, I just said the word I said I wasn't going to say. So what I said a moment ago is a disease. So who has this disease? Well, that's what they want to know. But because they can't actually figure that out medically, they are then going to introduce this RFID chip or some way of tracking who has had the vaccination and who has not. Okay, now this is a really important point that I want you to pay attention to. You need to go onto YouTube and you need to look up a guy named Karl Lentz. He spells his first name K-A-R-L, last name L-E-N-T-Z. Karl Lentz. Now Karl Lentz, I've been following him for about the last 4 years, and he talks all about common law. And for those of you that don't know, common law is the highest form of law that is practiced in America. And inside common law, men and women are the sovereign entities that are holding the court. So inside the jurisdiction of common law, the man or woman who comes into the court with a claim is the one that is controlling that court. The judge in this example would be just the administrator of the court or the referee of the game, if you want to see it that way. If you think about it in terms of a basketball game, the judge is really just like the referee. He has no ability to score points, which means he has no ability to actually tell the man or woman what they can and cannot do. They only can tally the points that the man or woman is presenting. So on team number one, you have a man or a woman making a claim in front of the court, and the claim is going to be about the other party. And then the other party is team number two. And like I already just said, the judge in this example has no power in that court. The only thing he can be is the referee, the voice of reason. And so as this narrative comes out, where they're going to be telling us that we need to have vaccinations in order to do certain things in society, we need to know our rights. We need to know that we are men and women, because legally speaking, men and women have an entirely different category of law than any other category. Like, let's say you identify as a person or as a citizen or as a civilian or resident of a state. All of those terms of how you self-identify put you in different jurisdictions in the courtroom. Now, with all of that said, I need to make it abundantly clear that this video is not giving you legal advice. This is A, for pure entertainment, and B, just an open discussion on the fact that common law is the form of law that is practiced in the land of America. So now let's get into the real world example. What's going to happen on the day where the government says to me, hey, you got to take this vaccination, or we're going to take this away, or we're going to remove this part of your civil liberties and freedoms. You're not going to be able to travel, or you're not going to be able to get a driver's license, or things like that. It could even be connected to this whole safer at home order, where we're being told to stay inside and that we can't go out, or else we're going to get a fine or potentially jailed. Now, the moment that the government wants to say to me that I can or cannot do something, or that I must do something or have to do something, or I'm going to experience a penalty, this whole argument is now I'm going to move it into common law. And I'm going to ask this accusing party, what law are they citing that says a man must do this, or that a man cannot do this? Now, the truth is, there is no such law that will ever say a man must do this, or this must be performed by a man. It's always going to be worded in terms of citizen, civilian, person, anything along those lines. Because legally speaking, The government can never force a man or a woman to do anything. Now, I just want to interject right here that I understand that this subject is probably a bit esoteric to people that have never really dived deep into the subject of common law. But that's the whole point of this video. I'm trying to breach the subject in your mind so that you can go do more research. So I'm going to give you my top 2 favorite resources to go research common law. The first resource I've already given you. It's Karl Lentz. Just look him up on YouTube and watch some of his videos. He talks about everything, and he's got hours and hours of content out there. So just search for him and dive deep into his content. The second resource I'm going to give you to research is another guy named Marc Stevens. Marcstevens. Marc Stevens. Now he has a whole web series where he interviews people that have used his techniques in the courtroom to be able to get out of things like speeding tickets or other miscellaneous charges that are totally garbage in the first place. There is absolutely no way that in this one video I'm going to be able to change your entire perspective. It's taken me about the last 5 years of researching this subject of common law to be able to understand what is actually going on between the men and women in our country and the government of our country. So if there's anything in this video that strikes you as unbelievable, I'm not asking you to believe me. I'm asking you to go do your own research and to look into how our country is actually structured. And you're going to find that information very clearly and cleanly through Karl Lentz and Marc Stevens. There's plenty of other people out there, but those two, I think, are the most clear-cut on what this subject actually is. So when the time comes, if the government ever says to me that I must get a vaccine in order to have my civil liberties or freedoms, it's going to be a no from me. It's going to be an absolute no. You cannot tell this man what to do in the free land of America. It's just not going to happen. Now, I know that there's going to be a ton of different reactions to this video, and I'm hoping that YouTube doesn't even try to shadow ban this video. But nonetheless, I have to put the truth out there. And whatever your thoughts are, put them in the comments. If you're a troll and you're annoying, I don't even care. You can put them in the comments. A, I'll probably delete them because I feel like I have every right to moderate my comment section. And B, it doesn't matter. What really matters is that you do your own research. I don't care what happens in the comment sections. I don't care how many likes or dislikes this video gets. That's not the point of what I'm doing here. The point of what I'm doing is trying to transmit to you an idea that you probably have not really heard of before and haven't really researched before, but that's only because we've been programmed ever since we were young to think about how we interact with the government from the angle that the government has been telling us how we should interact with them. So now you're going to have to go down your own rabbit hole of learning how America was actually established in order to put the people as the most liberated entities in our society and then the government underneath them. So to summarize one more time, there is no way that a governmental body can tell you, a man or woman, what you should or should not be doing with your body or with your time, with your freedom. They have absolutely no rights, no grounds to stand on in a courtroom in order to be able to tell you what you can and cannot do. So I want you to know that. First and foremost, I want you to hold that in your heart and know that you are free. You are above this system when it comes to the rights that you hold in our country. But because I understand that this subject requires a lot of proof, you're going to have to go find that through the resources that I've given you, because I can't give you all of the mental tools here in one short video. It's just too hard. There's too much information, too much deprogramming that we each have to go through. So you're going to have to go through that deprogramming on your own, but I'm telling you, Karl Lentz and Marc Stevens are going to help rearrange your thinking structure to be able to see how to actually interact with common law and to know your rights and to know how to uphold those rights. I'm going to be making more videos here very soon talking about this stuff more in depth, because I think that right now this is a very strange time to be here in America and we need to be vigilant. We need to have eagle vision and keep our eyes focused on what is happening here in our country. And as a general rule of thumb, whatever the media is telling you, and I'm talking about Fox News, CNN, ABC, all of them, I don't care which angle they're coming at you with an agenda, because every single media company out there has been bought and paid for. It is a fact that I found several years ago that 80 to 90% of every mainstream media outsource that you see is owned by only 6 corporations. That means it takes only 6 CEOs to create a narrative here in America that spreads everywhere, that becomes the dominant conversation. And this is like a fill in the blank of how you should be thinking about the disease that we're all being forced to deal with right now. So you need to remember that the narrative is being controlled, and the end goal of this narrative is to limit our civil liberties and freedoms. So we must now educate ourselves. You must now educate yourself, or else your civil liberty and freedom will most likely be taken away. So with that being said, I'm out of here. Leave a comment down below. Let me know if you have any questions. Maybe that will spark a new video that I can make to help explain this subject even deeper. But for now, go do your research, stay positive, stay healthy, tell somebody that you love them, and until I see you again along your journey, oneness in sound, I am OnenO. Peace.